Welcome to this tutorial for OMS Playback in Unreal Engine 4 with HoloEdit Release 2020.3. The OMS Player has targets for web, streaming, and game engines. We will cover using the OMS Player in Unreal Engine 4.25. Basic experience with the Unreal Engine 4 user interface is expected for this tutorial. The Unreal OMS Player plugin can play an OMS with an MP4 exported from HoloEdit 2020.3 or later. So that you can follow along with this tutorial, we have provided an example clip exported from HoloEdit. This clip consists of omsexampleclip.oms and omsexampleclip.mp4. For this tutorial, let's unpack the example clips into a folder in Documents/Workflow/OMS Player Unreal, and leave that window open for later. Once you have your files ready, let's get started. To install the OMS Player, you will need to copy the OMS Player plugin to the Unreal Engine Plugins folder. By default, that location is in Programs file, /epicgames/UE_4.25/engine/plugins. For additional information on installing plugins to UE4, refer to the relevant Unreal Engine documentation. Now that our plugin is installed, let's open the Epic Games Launcher and create a new project using Unreal Engine 4.25 and name it OMS Example. You can create this new project anywhere on your computer, but for this tutorial, we'll set the location to the same spot we set our OMS and MP4 video in Documents/Workflow/OMS Player Unreal. When the project opens up, we'll have to take the final steps to install the plugin. Open the plugin editor. In the plugin editor, you'll see a HoloStream Player plugin under the Installed tab. Select the checkbox to enable the plugin and select Restart Now to enable it. While that is restarting, in the project directory in the File Explorer, we'll add a Movies folder within Content and copy our omsexampleclip.mp4 to this directory. The OMS Player plugin requires that OMS MP4s are located in a folder named Movies in order for them to be used in Playback. Let's go back to our Unreal project now that it's finished restarting and press the Import button in the Content Browser window to import our assets. We'll navigate to each folder we copied our MP4 and OMS assets to and press Import on each asset. With our assets ready in our project, we can save the current scene or map as OMS Playback and move on to setting up our OMS Player. Now that we have our clip and project set up, it's time to create our OMS Player. First, let's create a folder to hold the new asset we'll need for Playback. We'll name this folder OMS Playback. Inside of this folder, we'll be creating all of the blueprints, materials, and other components we need for Playback. The first thing we'll need to create is a media texture. Right-click and select Media Texture from the Media menu and name this OMS Media Texture. Next, we'll create a media player. We won't need the video media component. Leave the option in the Create Media Player window disabled and press OK. We can name this OMS Media Player. Double-click on the OMS Media Texture file we created directly before, and in its Details panel, select the OMS Media Player we just created as its media player. And for this example, we want our clip to loop. So we will enable loop in the playback settings in the OMS Media Player's options. Next, we will need to create some materials for our volumetric playback. First, we'll create a material and name it OMS Mesh Material. In the Material Node editor, we'll right-click and search for the Arcturus OMS node. We'll add that node to the graph editor and connect the world position offset to the material node's world position offset input and have the normals output into the material's normals input. Next, we'll have to consider whether we plan to have a lit or unlit clip. If you plan on having real-time lighting in the scene, you'll want to connect the texture output to base color and set the shading model to default lit. For this tutorial, we'll make an unlit material. So let's connect the texture output from the OMS node to the emissive input of the material and set the shading model to unlit. Then we'll save the new material. Next, we'll need to create an additional material for the media texture. Let's create another material named OMS Texture Material. And in the graph editor, create a texture sample node. With the texture sample selected in the Details menu under the Material Expression texture base, set the texture field to OMS Media Texture. We will connect the RGB output into the emissive slot and save this new material. Next, we'll create a blueprint to drive our OMS Player. Right-click to create a blueprint. Search for OMS and add the OMS Mesh Actor. We'll name this blueprint Example OMS Player and open its event graph. Using the My Blueprint menu, add a variable named Media Player. In the Details menu, change the variable type to Media Player and compile. Next, set the default value to Texture Media Player. Drag the new node onto the event graph and select Get. Click on the output and create an open source Media Player node. The Media Player variable should connect to the target input, and the event begin play output should connect to the open source input. In the dropdown under Media Source in the open source node, select the OMS example clip MP4 that you have prepared to be played in the Unreal OMS Player. In the Details menu of the OMS settings, change the following options. Change the default Media Player to the OMS Media Player. For the OMS field, select the OMS that you are planning on playing. We'll select our OMS example clip.oms file. For the Media Player material field, select the OMS texture material that we created. And for the Mesh material field, select the OMS Mesh material that we created. Now we can compile the OMS Player blueprint and save. After configuring this blueprint, we should have everything we need set up for visual playback. Simply drag the OMS Player blueprint into the editor window and position it where you want it to be for playback. We'll adjust the rotation and transformations to get the actor where we want him in the scene. We can select Play from the Editor window menu to see our OMS playback. You'll notice that the text on the shirt is reversed. The XE becoming mirrored can occur sometimes while processing volumetric data. If you encounter this, simply add a -1 transform to the scale on the x-axis of your OMS player. All we're missing now from this clip is the sound. The final step is adding our audio to playback. In the World Outliner, click on the OMS Player Blueprint to open the Details tab. Select Add Component, and in the search bar, look for the Media Sound component and add it. Click on the new Media Sound component that gets added, and in the Media section of the Details, change the Media Player to the OMS Media Player. Now when we hit play, we can see our OMS is good to go. Let's save all now that we have everything set up. To quickly review this project, press the Launch button in the toolbar above the viewport. Using the default camera tools in Unreal, we can move the camera around to view our OMS player from all angles. Since we're satisfied with our playback, let's make a build of our OMS player for Windows. To make a package of our OMS player project, navigate to the File menu and select the Packaging Settings option under Package Project. Inside of the project settings, select Maps and Modes. Under the Default Maps tab, select the map we saved as OMS Playback to use as the editor startup map and game default map. Close that window and select Windows under the Package Project option on the File menu. We'll set Out Location to a new folder we'll name OMS Player Package and click Select Folder. Once that finishes packaging, we can navigate to that folder in Explorer and locate our OMS Playback executable inside of the Windows No Editor folder. Any user can run this executable and view our OMS playback. Let's double-click to run and check out our result. Thanks for following our tutorial on OMS playback using Unreal Engine 4.